Gentlemen, let me tell you something that separates the boys from the men from the high-value men. It's not money. It's not looks. It's not the car you drive or how loud you talk when you walk into a room. It's this composure under pressure. The high-value man does not panic, not because life is easy, far from it. He doesn't panic because he's prepared mentally, physically, spiritually. He's been through hell. He's trained in the fire. When the storm hits, when plans fall apart, when people leave, when the money dips, when fear starts whispering in your ear, he doesn't lose his cool. He pauses, he breathes, and he thinks, because panic is what the world expects. But poise, that's power. See, most people react. A high-value man responds. He's not out here proving anything. He knows who he is. His value isn't attached to outcomes. It's rooted in his discipline, his consistency, and his ability to lead when everything else goes quiet. A high-value man understands that the most powerful form of strength is not physical, it's emotional. It's the ability to maintain control over yourself no matter what the world throws at you. When you see a man who doesn't panic under pressure, who keeps a cool head when everything is falling apart, you're looking at someone who's learned the hard way that emotions can either be fuel or fire. They can push you forward or burn everything to the ground if you let them run unchecked. Emotional control is what separates a man who leads from a man who breaks. It's not that he doesn't feel, he feels deeply. But he doesn't let those feelings dictate his behavior. He might feel fear, but he doesn't become fear. He might feel anger, but he doesn't lash out and lose respect in the moment. He processes what's going on inside, and he chooses to respond in a way that reflects strength, not weakness. That's power. Most people are slaves to their emotions. They get a little anxious and they spiral. Someone disrespects them and they blow up, plans go off track, and suddenly it's the end of the world. That's a reactive life, an unstable, chaotic existence where every moment feels like a crisis. But the high-value man doesn't live like that. He doesn't hand over control of his life to emotions that come and go like the weather. Instead, he builds a fortress inside, a mindset that's solid, disciplined, and unshaken. He knows that emotions are just signals, not instructions. Just because something feels urgent or overwhelming doesn't mean it actually is. He trains himself to pause, breathe, and observe. He practices stillness when everything in him wants to run or rage or retreat. That's what makes him dependable to his family, his team, his partner, and most importantly, to himself. And think about the most dangerous moments in life, the ones where panic could ruin everything. You're in a high-stakes situation, maybe business, maybe a relationship, maybe life or death. The man who panics, who lets emotion hike logic, will make the worst possible choice. He'll regret it later, but in the moment he loses control. The man with emotional discipline, however, keeps his grip. He stays calm under pressure, sees clearly, and he acts with intention. That's who people look to in a crisis. That's who people trust. This doesn't come naturally. It takes effort. A man becomes emotionally solid the same way he becomes physically strong through consistent training. That training happens in hard moments. When life doesn't go his way, instead of falling apart, he leans in. He practices keeping his voice low when he's angry. He chooses to walk away instead of fight when pride is screaming at him. He endures discomfort without complaining. He builds up the muscle of emotional control one rep at a time. David Goggins talks about callousing the mind going through tough experiences not to become numb, but to become resilient. A high-value man does this with his emotions too. He doesn't avoid pain. He doesn't numb out or suppress what he's feeling. But he learns to sit with discomfort, to feel it without becoming it, to recognize the difference between emotion and identity. Just because he feels anxious doesn't mean he's weak. Just because he feels doubt doesn't mean he's not capable. He lets the emotions pass like weather across a mountain. The mountain doesn't move. It's not about being cold. It's about being calm, control, intentional. This is what allows him to handle relationships maturely, to make business decisions with clarity, and to show up in life without being swayed by every high and low. He becomes steady. In a world full of chaos, that steadiness is magnetic. It earns respect. It commands presence without having to speak loud or act tough. When you're in control of your emotions, you don't have to prove anything. You are the proof. The truth is, life will test you. People will disrespect you. Things will go wrong. You'll feel fear, doubt, jealousy, sadness, frustration. That's all part of being human. But the high-value man doesn't let those emotions define him. He doesn't deny them, but he doesn't bow to them either. He's the one who can look a difficult situation in the eye and stay steady. That's real strength. That's what people remember. That's what creates trust in relationships, in leadership, in self. So if you want to level up, start here. Learn to master yourself before you try to master your circumstances. Learn to keep your cool before you try to command others. Because the man who controls his emotions controls his Dale. And in the end, that's what makes a high-value man unshakable. Not luck, not status, not bravado, just discipline, presence, and emotional power. Panic is a symptom. It's what happens when a man is caught off guard when life hits, and he hasn't done the inner or outer work to be ready. But a high-value man doesn't live his life unprepared. He knows that the world is unpredictable. He knows that stress, failure, loss, and pressure are not if but when. So instead of walking through life hoping nothing goes wrong, he prepares himself to be strong when it does. Most people are reactive. They wait until the storm shows up to try and build a shelter. But by then it's too late. They panic because they don't know what to do. Their mind scrambles. Their heart races. Their emotions take over. But the high-value man operates differently. He trains before the test. He builds before the breakdown. He stays ready mentally, physically, financially, emotionally. So when the storm hits, he doesn't crumble. He leans in. He's been here before. Preparation is not about perfection. It's about knowing your systems, your mindset, and your values, and that when pressure comes, you default to strength, not survival. And that strength comes from doing hard things when you don't have to. Waking up early when you can sleep in. Training when you don't feel like it. Reading, learning, sharpening your skills even when no one's watching. It's in the daily disciplines that no one sees that's where confidence is built. And confidence kills panic. Because panic is often just unfamiliarity. The unknown triggers fear. But if you've already reversed difficulty in your mind, if you visualize adversity, if you've trained your body to keep moving through pain, if you've been uncomfortable on purpose, then discomfort doesn't rattle you. You're not shocked when things get hard. You expected this. You're ready. David Goggins talks a lot about the cookie jar, this mental collection of all the moments you've already overcome. All the times you pushed through when it sucked. All the moments you didn't quit. That cookie jar is part of your preparation. You don't build that in the moment of panic. You build it over years of doing the work. So when fear starts creeping in, you go back to that internal archive. You remind yourself, I've been through worse. I've handled pressure. I don't fold now. Preparation also means having structure. Chaos loves a vacuum. When there's no plan, no routine, no structure, life becomes messy fast. The high-value man doesn't rely on willpower alone. He builds systems. He knows his mission. He sets a schedule. And he sticks to it. That doesn't mean he's rigid. It means he has a foundation. And foundations are what hold you up when everything else is shaking. You look at elite athletes, top-tier performers, warriors, they don't prepare when the spotlight is on. They prepare when no one's looking. Thousands of hours of reps, drills, failure, and feedback all. So that when the moment comes, they don't panic. They perform. You want to be a high-value man. Then prepare like one. Do the reps. Study yourself. Sharpen your body and your mind before the test comes. Because the test will come. And here's the deeper truth. Preparation isn't just about readiness for external events. It's about inner strength. If you've done the inner work, if you've sat with your weaknesses, if you face your own demons, if you've accepted your past and taken responsibility for your life, then when the world tries to shake you, it doesn't find loose pieces. It finds a man who knows who he is. A man who's grounded. A man who doesn't need to scramble because his foundation is set. That's what makes the high-value man dangerous in the best way. He's not just reacting to life, he's built for it. Not arrogant, not loud, just ready. His preparation gives him peace. While others are searching for answers in the middle of the chaos, he's already moving. He's already adapting. He doesn't freeze up because he's trained for moments like this, not just physically, but mentally. Emotionally, spiritually, he's practiced being calm. He's practiced being clear. He's practiced being effective, even under pressure. And it shows. When things fall apart, he steps up. When people panic, he becomes a steady voice. When the unexpected hits, he doesn't fold, he focuses. Because he's been sharpening that blade for years, and now it's time to use it. If you're not there yet, that's okay. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every day is a chance to prepare. Every hard choice you make builds that resilience. Every uncomfortable task you finish, every workout you don't skip, every time you hold your standard, even when no one's watching, that's the work. That's how you eliminate panic before it ever shows up. Because when you've trained your mind and body to operate under pressure, you don't fear pressure. You welcome it. You say, I'm built for this. And that's not just talk, that's the truth you earn through preparation. Panic, that's for the untrained. You stay ready. It tears a kind of confidence out there that's loud. It talks big. It shows off. It wants to be seen. That kind of confidence is built on ego and needing other people to validate you. But the problem with ego is it's fragile. It shatters the moment it's challenged. It needs applause to survive. And when things get real, when pressure rises and masks fall off, ego disappears. That's not high value. That's surface level. Real confidence, the kind that holds its ground under fire, doesn't come from ego. It comes from discipline. Discipline is what builds a man from the inside out. It's quiet, it's consistent, and it's ruthless excuses. It doesn't care how you feel, it cares what you do. When a man shows up for himself day after day, when he keeps promises to himself that no one else even knows about, something starts to shift inside him. He doesn't need to talk about what he's doing, he knows he's doing it. That creates a kind of quiet confidence that can't be faked, and more importantly, it can't be taken away. Ego wants attention. Discipline builds character. And character is what lasts when attention fades. The disciplined man knows he's not perfect, but he's improving. He doesn't need to puff his chest or put others down to feel tall. He stands tall because he's earned the right to. Through the early mornings, the hard decisions, the lonely reps, the nights when no one was cheering for him, he kept going. And that consistency builds something no one can give you: self-respect. And that's the real flex. A high-value man doesn't need the room to bow to him. He doesn't need to dominate conversations or flash his achievements. He walks in peace because he knows the work he's put in. He knows the struggles he's overcome. And that quiet self-belief speaks louder than anything he could say. You feel it in how he carries himself. Calm, grounded, present. He doesn't have to perform, he just is. A man who lacks discipline, on the other hand, has to cover that gap with ego. He makes noise to distract from what's missing. He acts like he's already arrived because deep down he knows he hasn't done the work. He's afraid someone will notice the cracks, so he keeps painting over them with talk and flash. But that won't hold up when life tests him, when adversity hits, when relationships challenge him, when money's tight or health declines. That's when the mask slips. And without discipline, he crumbles. That's why the man of value chooses discipline over ego every time. Because discipline is solid. It builds real confidence, the kind that stays with you in silence, in solitude, in setbacks. The kind that shows up when no one else does. The kind that keeps you pushing forward when it would be easier to fall back. Confidence from ego is a house built on sand. Confidence from discipline is a fortress built brick by brick. It's not sexy, but it's unshakable. Discipline means showing up when you don't feel like it. It means doing what you said you'd do long after the motivation is gone. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. The high-value man isn't flawless, he just refuses to quit. And that refusal becomes a mindset or belief. A certainty that no matter what happens, he can figure it out. He'll adapt. He'll learn. He'll endure. That's where real confidence comes from. It's not I'm better than everyone. It's I've been through enough to trust myself now. And here's the thing, people can sense that. You can't fake discipline. You can't fake the energy of someone who's done the work. That energy is quiet, but powerful. It doesn't need to argue or convince. It doesn't need to compare. It just walks in and holds its space. That's the energy of a man who leads by example, not words. Who speaks with his actions. Who moves with purpose. That's who people follow. That's who people respect. And that's the kind of man you become when you make discipline your foundation. It also means he's humble. Not in a weak way, in a grounded way. He doesn't need to act like he knows everything, because he's secure enough to admit when he doesn't. He doesn't hide behind pride. He asks questions. He stays a student, because discipline has taught him that the real battle is with himself, not with others. That comparison is a trap, and real growth is personal. And when you're committed to your own path, you don't have time to judge someone else's. So if you're chasing confidence, stop looking for quick wins or empty validation. Stop trying to look the part and become the part. Build it through the grind, through the small wins that stack up, through the hard days that you show up for anyway, through the nights you feel like quitting but don't, through the discipline of doing what matters over and over again. That's how confidence is built. Quietly, slowly, relentlessly. And when it's built from that place, no one can touch it. No one can take it away. It's yours. Because you earned it one rep, one choice, one disciplined day at a time. When things are good, when everything's smooth and predictable, everyone looks composed. Everyone seems confident. But the true test of a man isn't how he acts when things are easy. It's how he carries himself when the pressure rises, when the plan breaks, when emotions run high and chaos shows up uninvited. That's where leadership begins. Not in titles, not in speeches, in moments of uncertainty. When people are waiting to see who breaks first, the man who stays calm becomes the leader by default. Staying calm isn't weakness. It's not passive. It's not indecision. It's the highest form of control. Because chaos is loud. It wants a reaction. It feeds on panic, on reactivity, on people who rush to fix things without thinking clearly. But calm is rare. Calm is powerful. Calm makes people lean in. When a man stands in the middle of a disorder and doesn't flinch, it sends a signal not just to others, but to himself. I can handle this. You don't need to be the most talented, the most experienced, or the loudest guy in the room to lead. You need to be the one who doesn't lose his head. That's what people instinctively look for when everything around them feels unstable. They're not looking for the man who shouts the most. They're looking for the one who brings stillness to the room. The one who listens first. The one who observes before he speaks. The one whose energy doesn't add fuel to the fire, it cools it. That kind of leadership can't be faked. It comes from preparation, from emotional discipline, and from knowing your values so well that you're not easily pulled in every direction. The calm man isn't pretending to be strong. He's grounded in something deeper. He doesn't need to prove anything. He's seen enough, been through enough, and worked on himself enough to know that panic never improves the outcome. If anything, it makes things worse. When you panic, your vision narrows. Your breath shortens. You start reacting from fear, not reason. But when you stay calm, even in the chaos, you create space. You breathe slower, you see more, you can think clearly, make better decisions, and carry others with you. That's real leadership, not telling people what to do, but showing them what it looks like to remain composed when the pressure is on. And that calm is contagious. Just like panic spreads in a group, so does presence. If you're composed, others start to mirror that energy. You become the anchor, the emotional thermostat. People pick up on it, whether it's your family in a stressful situation, your team during a crisis, or your partner when emotions are high. You're the one who steadies the energy, not by controlling them, but by controlling yourself. And this doesn't mean you're emotionless. The calm man feels everything. He's not numb, he's aware. He's just trained himself not to be run by emotion. He doesn't bury how he feels, he just manages it without losing integrity. That's where his strength comes from. He can feel the fear and still act with courage. He can feel the anger but respond with clarity. That's not denial, that's self-mastery. Most people think leadership is about being in charge. But the truth is, leadership is about how you carry yourself when you're not in control, when things are uncertain. A high-value man accepts that he can't control every outcome, but he can control his state, his breathing, his thoughts, his tone, his energy. And in doing so, he controls the only thing that ever really mattered in the first place, himself. And in those moments, leadership emerges naturally. It's not something you have to force. It's not a role you have to ask for. People sense it. They feel safer around you. They trust your judgment, not because you have all the answers, but because you're not thrown off by the unknown. That's what makes you trustworthy. Not perfection, but presence. The world is noisy, fast, uncertain. And there will always be chaos in business, in relationships, in life. There will be moments that shake the room, that test patience, that demand action. But the man who leads isn't the one who moves first. It's the one who stays grounded enough to know when and how to move. That comes from a calm, centered mind. You earn that calm the same way you earn anything real through Yunha. Through facing the small storms before the big ones hit. Through choosing stillness when you want to lash out. Through practicing patience when everything in you wants to speed up. Through asking questions instead of rushing to be right. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you become stronger, more magnetic, more trusted, more respected. So if you want to lead, don't wait for permission. Don't try to talk your way into influence. Build your calm, sharpen it, carry it with you into the next storm, and watch what happens. Watch how people respond when you're the one who doesn't flinch. Watch how doors open, not because you demanded them to, but because you became the kind of man who doesn't panic when others do. That's leadership. That's presence. That's power. Emotions aren't the enemy. They're part of being human. They're messenger signals from within, trying to show you something you need to notice. But the problem is, too many men either ignore their emotions or get controlled by them. One leads to suppression, the other to chaos. The high-value man takes a different route. He feels his emotions fully, but he doesn't let them drive. He lets them inform him, not rule him. Emotions are data, not direction. Most people don't even realize how often their actions are dictated by how they feel. One bad mood and they throw away a whole day. One moment of anger and they destroy a relationship. One hit of anxiety and they run from the challenge. That's not leadership. That's not power. That's being ruled by impulse. A high-value man knows that if you let emotion take the wheel, you're giving up your ability to lead not just others, but yourself. That doesn't mean he's robotic or numb. Quite the opposite. He's more in tune with his emotional state than most. But he's trained himself to pause, to observe, to ask, what is this feeling trying to show me? Rather than, what do I need to do because of this feeling? That one shift, that space between emotion and reaction, is where power lies. You can be angry and still choose patience. You can be afraid and still choose courage. You can be tired and still show up. That's discipline, but it's also wisdom. Because your emotions are valid, but they're not always accurate. They don't always tell the full story. They're based on your past, your patterns, your triggers. So the high-value man doesn't automatically believe every feeling. He checks it against his values, against reality. He investigates it. He listens, but he doesn't obey blindly. Let's say you're frustrated. That frustration might be telling you something's off. Maybe a boundary's being crossed. Maybe you're out of alignment. Maybe you're operating below your standard. Good. Take the message. But don't go lashing out. Don't let that frustration hijack your ability to communicate or think clearly. Same with fear. Fear might be pointing you toward growth, showing you a place where your comfort zone is too small. That's a gift. But if you let fear dictate your decisions, you'll stay stuck forever. Emotions also come and go. They're fluid, ever-changing. You can't build a life based on something that shifts every hour. That's why the high-value man builds from a place of principle, not mood. He moves from commitment, not comfort. He makes decisions based on what's aligned with his purpose, his vision, and his integrity, not just what feels good in the moment. That's strength. That's maturity. That's what separates boys from men. And the truth is, the more responsibility you carry, the more this matters. When people are counting on you as a father, a partner, a leader, you can't afford to be emotionally reckless. Your ability to regulate yourself becomes a source of safety for others. If you collapse every time the pressure rises, people will stop trusting you. But if you remain steady, not because you're cold, but because you've trained for this, then people will naturally follow you. They'll lean on your clarity, but you only get that clarity if you're willing to do the emotional work. That means not avoiding the hard stuff. That means learning to sit with discomfort without needing to fix it right away. That means facing what's underneath the surface instead of distracting yourself. A high-value man doesn't run from pain. He mines it for insight. He doesn't pretend to be above emotion. He integrates it into his strength. It also means owning your emotional impact. Your energy affects others, whether you realize it or not. The tone you use, the presence you carry, the way you respond when something doesn't go your way, all of it matters. And when you're emotionally unaware, you become a liability. But when you're emotionally grounded, you become a lighthouse. You bring clarity. You bring calm. You bring truth even when it's uncomfortable. That's what makes emotional intelligence a weapon, not a soft skill, but a sharp edge. The man who can feel deeply and choose wisely is dangerous in the best way. He's not reactive. He's not explosive. He's not unpredictable. He's consistent. And consistency builds trust both in yourself and in others. You become someone who's not thrown off course every time a wave hits. You feel the wave, but you stay on course. That's how you lead. That's how you build lasting relationships. That's how you stay focused in business, in life, in love. You stop letting emotions run the show. You let them guide your awareness, not your actions. You thank them for the message. Then you return to your path. Steady, clear, present. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You'll still feel everything, the highs, the lows, the fear, the joy, but you'll no longer be a slave to any of it. You'll move with depth, not drama, with truth, not turbulence. And that's when you become truly unshakable. Everything starts from within. The outer world is just a reflection of what's happening on the inside. If a man can't control his thoughts, his mindset, his emotions, and his habits, then the world around him will always feel chaotic, no matter how much he tries to manage it. He'll blame other people. He'll blame circumstances. He'll point fingers. But the truth is, it's not the outside that's out of control, it's him. A high-value man understands this. He knows that to create power, peace, and purpose on the outside, he first has to master what's happening inside. It begins with awareness. You can't control what you don't even notice. Most people move through life on autopilot. They repeat the same thoughts, the same patterns, the same reactions without ever questioning where they came from. But not the man who's serious about his growth. He watches his mind like a warrior, calm, observant, focused. He pays attention to what he allows in, what he thinks about, what he focuses on. Because he knows the mind is fertile ground. Whatever gets planted there grows. So if you plant doubt, negativity, comparison, excuses, guess what you harvest? Chaos. But if you plant discipline, clarity, belief, and intention, then even when the outer world gets turbulent, you stay rooted. That's the edge. Not having a perfect life, but having an unshakable inner world no matter what life throws at you. Controlling the inner world doesn't mean suppressing what you feel. It means responding instead of reacting. It means slowing down when your mind wants to rush. It means breathing when everything feels tight. It means zooming out when your emotions want to zoom in. That kind of control is powerful not because it dominates others, but because it frees you. You stop being a slave to your impulses. You stop getting yanked around by every little thing that doesn't go your way. People think control is about manipulating outcomes, but real control is about ownership. Owning your attitude, owning your energy, owning your responses. The man who masters that becomes a force. You can't bait him into arguments. You can't distract him with noise. You can't knock him off course with minor setbacks. He's playing the long game and he's anchored from within. And here's the thing, when you control your inner world, the outer world begins to respond differently. Opportunities open up. People treat you with more respect. You attract better relationships, stronger connections, higher level situations, not because of luck, but because you carry a different energy. You're no longer chasing validation. You're not driven by fear or desperation. You're showing up with presence, with calm, with quiet power. You walk into a room and people feel it not because you're loud, but because you're aligned. Your words carry weight. Your actions match your values. There's no need for performance. No need for masks. Just solid, steady presence that comes from a man who's done the inner work. That kind of energy shifts the environment. It draws people in. It creates trust. And it starts to influence the outer world in subtle but undeniable ways. Now, this doesn't mean life becomes perfect. Life will still test you. It will throw curveballs. There will be stress, loss, frustration, uncertainty. But the difference is you're no longer trying to fix the world before fixing yourself. You're not trying to control outcomes. You're mastering your approach. That's where real power lies. It's not in the illusion of controlling everything outside. It's in knowing that no matter what's going on out there, you can stay centered in here. And yes, this takes work. It takes consistency. It takes a willingness to confront your own mind, your own stories, your own patterns. It takes humility to admit when you've been ruled by fear, ego, or distraction. And it takes discipline to rewire your thinking, to create new habits, to build mental resilience that doesn't rely on perfect conditions. But over time, this becomes your default. You stop leaking energy into things you can't control. You stop needing to react to everything. You stop living in the past or the future. You become deeply grounded in the present because that's where your power is. That's where decisions are made. That's where your character is built. A man who controls his inner world is a man who's free. He's not owned by stress, doubt, or fear. He sees clearly. He moves intentionally. He creates impact not by force, but by being rooted. That's what makes people follow him. Trust him. Remember him. He doesn't need to demand respect. He earns it silently, steadily from the inside out. So if your outer world feels chaotic, unaligned, or out of sync, don't rush to fix everything around you. Go within. Look at your thoughts, your beliefs, your daily habits, your attitude when no one's watching. That's where the shift begins. Because the moment you decide to take full ownership of your inner state without blame, without excuse, is the moment everything outside begins to shift with it. Control the inner world and the outer world follows every time. So many people are stuck in the cycle of seeking external validation. They live for likes, for applause, for recognition, for approval. It's a constant search for confirmation from the outside world that they matter, that they're important, that they're enough. The problem with this is that external validation is fleeting and it's unreliable. It's a fragile foundation. If your value is based on what other people think of you, you'll never feel fully secure. You're always going to depend on someone else's opinion of you, which can change in an instant. High-value men know that their worth doesn't come from external sources. They know that their value is intrinsic, rooted in who they are, not in what others see or say about them. The moment you stop depending on the outside world to tell you how much you're worth, you take your power back. You stop living for approval, and instead, you start living for yourself. You become the judge of your own value. You define who you are and what you stand for. That's freedom. That's self-respect. You're no longer on a roller coaster ride of highs and lows based on the whims of others. You're solid. You're anchored in your own understanding of your worth. And here's the reality. Not everyone will see your value. Not everyone will understand you or appreciate what you bring to the table. That's okay. That's not your problem. When you attach your self-worth to the opinion of others, you're opening the door for inconsistency and instability. You'll never have full control over how people perceive you. They might love you one day and ignore you the next. Their opinions may be based on their own insecurities, their biases, their moods. But none of that changes who you are. None of it diminishes your worth. A high-value man understands that his value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's perception. He is secure in who he is, regardless of whether the world notices or not. When you stop seeking external validation, you free yourself from the chains of comparison. You stop looking sideways, wondering what others are doing or whether you measure up. You stop basing your success or worth on how you stack up against someone else's highlight reel. Instead, you focus on your own journey. You track your own progress. You define your own metrics of success. This doesn't mean you don't take feedback. It means that feedback no longer determines your self-worth. You no longer need constant reassurance. You've built your confidence from the inside out. You know who you are and what you stand for. That's a powerful place to be. This kind of self-assurance doesn't come from arrogance. It doesn't mean thinking you're better than anyone else. It's not about dismissing the value of others or pretending like you have it all figured out. It's about knowing that you are enough as you are and that your worth isn't contingent on anyone's approval. When you're truly secure in your own value, you have no need to compare yourself to others. You can celebrate their success without feeling diminished. You can support them without feeling threatened. You can learn from them without feeling like they're taking something from you. Your self-worth doesn't diminish just because someone else is winning. You know that there's room for everyone to succeed. A man who lives for external validation will constantly be chasing something outside himself. He'll be chasing the next compliment, the next like, the next pat on the back, and it will never be enough. Because validation from the outside will always leave you feeling empty once the attention fades. You can get validation from hundreds of people, but if you don't validate yourself, it will never be enough. It's a bottomless pit. No amount of praise or recognition will fill the hole if you don't already believe in your value. On the flip side, a high-value man doesn't need to be praised to know that he's doing great things. He can look at his work and his actions and his character and feel pride because he knows he's aligning with his values. He doesn't need someone else to tell him he's on the right path. He knows it because he's living it. The high-value man doesn't live for validation. He lives for purpose. He has a deeper mission, a deeper sense of direction, and that is what drives him, not the need for others to cheer him on. His value isn't tied to external measures of success. It's based on who he is when no one is watching, when there's no one around to applaud or critique. Self-degradation is a practice. It's something that takes time to build. It starts with doing the right thing even when no one notices. It starts with making decisions that are in alignment with your values even when there's no external reward. It's about building a track record of integrity, of showing up for yourself day after day, regardless of whether anyone gives you credit. Over time, you build a sense of self-worth that is rooted in your actions, your integrity, and your growth. And as you continue to build this inner confidence, you stop seeking validation because you no longer need it. You become the ultimate source of approval in your life. When your value comes from within, you are free to live on your terms. You stop letting the opinions of others dictate your choices. You stop waiting for permission to go after your dreams. You act with conviction, knowing that your worth doesn't depend on the outcome. You pursue your goals because they matter to you, not because of how others will perceive you. And as a result, you attract the right people into your life. You attract people who value you for who you truly are, not for who you pretend to be. A high-value man doesn't live for applause. He lives for purpose. He lives for integrity. He lives for his own sense of self-worth. And when you do that, everything else falls into place. You no longer have to chase validation. It finds you naturally, effortlessly, because you've already given it to yourself. We often hear the phrase, time is money, or time is the most valuable resource. But what if I told you that time isn't the most important thing to master? What if your energy is actually the true key to success and fulfillment? Time is finite. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. But energy is the one resource that sets high-value men apart from the average person. It's what fuels everything. It's what powers your drive, your creativity, your passion, and your productivity. Master your energy and your time becomes infinitely more effective. Most people waste energy on things that drain them. They wake up tired, go through their day in a fog, and end up feeling exhausted by the end of it, even though they didn't accomplish much. They react to every situation, every interruption, every request, without ever considering where their energy is actually going. This is a recipe for burnout. It's a recipe for mediocrity. But a high-value man is different. He's intentional with his energy. He doesn't just give it away to every task, every person, every distraction. He chooses where his energy goes, and more importantly, he knows where to conserve it. Energy isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, and spiritual, and these different types of energy are interconnected. If you're physically exhausted, it's harder to think clearly or stay emotionally balanced. If you're mentally drained, you won't have the emotional strength to tackle challenges or stay calm in stressful situations. High-value men understand this connection, and they intentionally structure their lives to nurture all areas of energy. They prioritize their well-being, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because they know that only by having a healthy and balanced energy system can they show up as their best selves in every area of life. One of the most important ways to manage your energy is to understand your natural rhythms. We all have different energy levels throughout the day. Some people are morning people, full of energy when the sun comes up, while others are more productive in the afternoon or evening. A high-value man knows when he's at his best, and he aligns his most important tasks with those peak times. This isn't about scheduling tasks just to fill up time. It's about understanding when your energy is aligned with what you need to do. If you're the type of person who feels clear-headed and focused in the morning, you use that time to tackle the most important, most mentally demanding tasks. You don't waste that precious energy on low-value activities or distractions. But energy management goes beyond just knowing your peak times. It's about protecting your energy from the things that drain it. Every single day, you face choices about where to place your focus and attention. Will you get caught up in drama, gossip, or negativity? Will you allow external stressors and distractions to derail your focus? Or will you protect your mental space and energy, choosing to focus on what matters most? High-value men are careful about where they invest their energy. They don't allow negativity or distractions to take up mental real estate. They know that every ounce of energy matters, and they use it wisely. A high-value man also knows how to restore his energy when it's depleted. In the hustle of daily life, it's easy to burn out, but taking time to recharge is crucial. This doesn't mean you take weeks off every time you feel tired. It means you incorporate restorative practices into your daily life. For some, this might be physical exercise. For others, it's meditation or journaling. For some, it's simply spending time in nature, away from the noise and demands of the world. The high-value man has rituals, daily or weekly habits that help him reset and recharge. These rituals are non-negotiable because he understands that without a healthy reserve of energy, nothing else will be sustainable. He doesn't just work harder, he works smarter. And part of that includes knowing when to pause, rest, and refuel. Energy also comes from the people you surround yourself with. The high-value man is selective about his relationships. He understands that being around people who drain your energy can have a profound impact on your own state of being. Negative people, complainers, and energy vampires can suck the life out of you even if you don't realize it. Conversely, being around positive, motivated, and inspiring people can elevate your energy. High-value men build networks and relationships that feed their energy, people who challenge them to grow, who support their goals, and who share their values. They intentionally choose the company they keep because they know that the energy of those around them can either raise them up or bring them down. Part of mastering your energy is learning to say no. This is a skill that many people, especially those who are eager to please, struggle with. But the high-value man knows that saying yes to everything is a surefire way to drain his energy. He understands that every time he agrees to something, he's committing his time and energy to it. And if it's not in alignment with his priorities, he's robbing himself of the energy he needs for the things that truly matter. The high-value man doesn't apologize for saying no. He says it with respect, but without guilt. He understands that his time and energy are precious, and he treats them as such. Mastering your energy isn't about constant hustle or pushing yourself to the limit. It's about efficiency. It's about working with your body and mind, not against them. It's about being intentional with where you place your focus and your efforts, and knowing when to rest and recharge. It's about creating balance, protecting your energy from unnecessary drains, and aligning your actions with your highest priorities. The result? You become more productive, more focused, more present, and ultimately more successful. Because when you're in control of your energy, you can pour it into the things that matter. You're not burned out. You're not overwhelmed. You're performing at your best day in and day out because you've learned the true power of managing your energy.